Welcome to the deep dive. We're diving into Bitcoin today, but not just the basics. We're going deeper this time. You sent in some articles about something called Bitcoin halving, and I gotta say, the term alone has got me curious. What are we getting into here?
Well, you picked a good one. This halving is the big deal in Bitcoin's life cycle. It's kind of like the system's heartbeat. Keeps everything ticking. Understanding this halving can help us see just how different Bitcoin is from, well, traditional currencies like the dollar.
Okay, color me intrigued. One article described Bitcoin like it's this digital gold, but what exactly sets it apart from, like, the cash in my wallet?
The core difference is decentralization. No single entity, no government or central bank controls Bitcoin. It's run by a network of computers spread across the globe. Think of it kind of like a digital gold rush. Everyone has a chance to mine these new coins.
Mining. Hold on, are we talking virtual pickaxes and hard hats here?
Not exactly. In this case, mining involves using computers to solve some seriously complex math problems. The winner gets to add a block of transactions to this public ledger we call the blockchain. And for their effort, they get rewarded with brand new Bitcoins. And this blockchain is what makes Bitcoin so secure, by the way.
Yeah, the article mentioned this blockchain is tamper-proof, something like nobody can sneak in and change the records. How's that even possible? Sounds like a digital fortress.
That's one way to put it. Picture a giant global ledger copied across countless computers. To change even one tiny transaction, you'd need to hack every single one of those computers at the same time. Practically impossible.
So it's secure, it's decentralized, but this whole mining thing sounds like a massive energy suck. One article said Bitcoin uses as much electricity as a whole country. Does that level of energy use worry you, especially with all the concerns about climate change these days?
It's a valid concern for sure. It's a big topic of debate. That particular article was from back in 2020. Since then, there's been a big push for more energy-efficient mining methods. Some miners are even turning to renewable energy sources.
That's good to hear. So there's a move towards sustainability. That's encouraging. But let's get to the core of this deep dive, this halving. The article called it a great Bitcoin halving event. Sounds a bit dramatic, right? What makes this event so important?
Well, imagine you're a Bitcoin miner. You're putting in all this effort to solve these crazy math problems to earn your Bitcoin reward. Now, every 4 years, that reward gets cut right in half. That's the halving. It's a pre-programmed event baked right into Bitcoin's code.
Okay, so we start at 50 Bitcoins, then it drops to 25, then 12.5, and keeps going down. The article laid it all out in a timeline. But why does this happen? What's the reason behind slashing the miners' rewards like that?
This halving is a crucial part of what makes Bitcoin so different from traditional currencies. See, governments can print more money whenever they want, which leads to inflation. But Bitcoin has a fixed supply, capped at 21 million. That's it. The halving makes sure those Bitcoins are released slowly and predictably, keeping inflation in check.
So no central authority deciding how much Bitcoin is out there. It's all determined by this code. That's pretty mind-blowing. But if less and less Bitcoin is being created, wouldn't that make the Bitcoin that's already out there more valuable?
That's the general idea. It's one of the key things that sets Bitcoin apart from those fiat currencies, like this built-in scarcity mechanism designed to, well, increase its value over time.
So it's like, what, finding some rare gem?
Yeah.
As there are fewer left to discover, the price goes up? Makes sense, but doesn't that make, predicting the price of Bitcoin incredibly difficult? Seems like these halvings could cause some crazy swings in its value.
That's where it gets interesting. There's no guarantee the price will jump immediately after a halving. It's not some magic formula. And remember, Bitcoin's price is affected by a ton of factors: market sentiment, global economics, even trends on social media.
So we can't just look at this halving in a vacuum. It's just one piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. But historically speaking, we have seen some, well, let's say interesting price movements after these halving events. One of the articles you sent in, it highlighted that previous halvings were often followed by some pretty significant Bitcoin price surges, months, even years later.
So while it's not a direct cause and effect, the halving might be like a catalyst for price increases down the road.
That's a great way to put it. Think of it this way. Imagine if suddenly the rate of gold mining got cut in half. Basic economics tells us that if the demand for gold stays the same or increases, the price will probably go up, right? It's becoming more scarce. This halving, it introduces a similar kind of dynamic to the Bitcoin market.
That makes sense. But I can't help but think about the long game here. We know that sometime around the year 2140, the last Bitcoin will be mined. What happens then? Does the whole system just grind to a halt?
Now, that's a question that gets a lot of people talking in the crypto world. Some folks believe that transaction fees alone might not be enough to keep those miners motivated to, maintain the whole network,
Mm.
especially if Bitcoin's value drops. It's a valid concern. But there are some potential solutions being discussed, like implementing new consensus mechanisms or even adjusting the block size to handle more transactions.
So the Bitcoin community is actively working on solutions to make sure the network stays sustainable in the long run. That's good to know.
Oh, absolutely. The evolution of Bitcoin is constantly going, always innovating, always adapting. It's a fascinating case study in how these decentralized systems can evolve and tackle new challenges. It's pretty remarkable.
This whole conversation has been incredibly insightful. We've gone from the nitty-gritty of mining to the potential impact of the halving on price, and now we're looking decades into the future. It's amazing how much complexity there is to Bitcoin.
It's a reminder that Bitcoin really is unlike any financial system we've ever seen before. It challenges our traditional ideas of currency and makes us rethink what value even means in this digital age. It's a whole new way of thinking.
With all this talk about the potential upside, I think it's important to acknowledge that not everyone is sold on Bitcoin's future. What about the critics? What are their concerns? Are they just resistant to change, or are there some legitimate points we should consider?
You bring up a great point. There are valid criticisms and concerns about Bitcoin, and it's important to talk about those. One of the biggest criticisms is its volatility.
We were just talking about Bitcoin's volatility, how it makes some people nervous. It's hard to imagine using Bitcoin for everyday purchases when its value could swing so wildly, like overnight.
That's for sure. That's one of the biggest hurdles for Bitcoin, to become a widely accepted currency. Imagine going to the store and the price of bread changes drastically by the time you get to the checkout. Not exactly ideal.
Right. And then there are those concerns about security and regulation. I've seen articles about Bitcoin being used for illegal stuff like money laundering. How do you address those kinds of concerns?
Well, it's true. Bitcoin's anonymity has raised concerns about illicit use.
Hmm.
Governments around the world are trying to figure out how to regulate cryptocurrency, but it's a tough challenge. It's all about finding that balance between preventing crime and, allowing innovation in this new tech landscape.
It feels like we're back in the early days of the internet. All this potential, but we're still writing the rule book.
I like that comparison. And of course, we can't forget the environmental impact of Bitcoin mining. We talked about how things are shifting to more sustainable practices, but that energy consumption is still a big worry for a lot of people.
So even with all the potential upsides, there are some serious challenges that need to be addressed.
Absolutely. It's crucial to look at Bitcoin critically, acknowledge both the exciting possibilities and the potential downsides.
Sounds like Bitcoin's future is anything but certain.
Exactly. It's still early days in the crypto world. Will Bitcoin become mainstream? Will it stay mainly an investment? Will governments embrace it or try to shut it down? Only time will tell.
This deep dive has been a whirlwind. We've covered the technical side of Bitcoin, the impact of halving, and even the broader economic and social implications. And it's clear there's no easy answer when it comes to Bitcoin's future.
It's a complex thing, that's for sure, full of passionate supporters and skeptical critics. But what I find most fascinating is how it makes us rethink these fundamental concepts like money and value in a digital age. It's a real paradigm shift.
And who knows what innovations are coming down the pipeline. What started with Bitcoin has sparked a wave of creativity in finance and tech. It's an exciting time to watch it all unfold.
Couldn't agree more. This halving event has given us a glimpse into how Bitcoin works and what might shape its future. It's been a great discussion.
We've learned that it's not just about Bitcoin's price, but the potential of blockchain technology to transform industries and change how we think about transactions, data, even trust itself.
It's a good reminder that we're living in a time of incredible technological change. And these innovations we're seeing in crypto, they could have huge ripple effects that we can't even predict yet.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Bitcoin halving. We hope you've learned a thing or two and maybe even come away with more questions. The future of Bitcoin is a story that's still being written, and we'll be here to follow it every step of the way.